Alright guys, I wanted to make a video kind of speculating on who I think are some of the 4 servants I think that could be the JP New Year's servant. Now, I think there's quite a few candidates that could actually be this New Year's servant, especially with the advent of Olga coming out, well not coming out, but being a playable servant, quote unquote, in the new Lost Belt 7. And so, I was like, you know what? Let's speculate. Speculating is always really fun. We get to kind of talk about our different reasons and everything, being like, well, I think they're going to be this servant because of X reasons. Well, I think it's going to be this servant for X reasons as well. We do know that there's the pattern of them doing like a Saber, a foreigner, a Saber, a foreigner. And so this year, if the pattern's going to hold true, it should be a Saber. But Lasengle's now in charge, and they might, to break away from what like DW is doing, they might just throw out like an Archer or something, or an alter ego. Or maybe they throw out the first Beast class servant in Olga, which would be really weird. But yeah, if you enjoy daily FGO content, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I usually stream every weekday starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on my Twitch. If you want to check that out, peep that in the description down below. But with that being said, let's go ahead and start talking about some of these servants. So the first one I put on here is just Olga, right? Because, oh, she's just got announced for Lost Belt 7, and, we're going to have New Year's in, like, I believe 5 days or 4 days after this video goes up. Just depends on what day it actually goes out. But like, she's the new hot servant that everybody's talking about. We're like, oh my goodness, we have Olga. Although the weird thing is that like, she doesn't almost like look like she's done. Like, it looks like she might be like anniversary or something, if that makes sense. Like, it kind of looks like they're still not finished with like her kit and everything, and they might not be decided on what they wanted to do, especially for the fact that like we don't know what her NP does. Some of her animations look a little rough, like not bad, but some of them do look a little more rough compared to like more polished newer servants. So she might not actually be ready to go ahead and ship out, but I definitely think she's more likely to be like an anniversary servant, right? Like, I think they're going to want to go ahead and drop her after Lost Belt 7 completes. We'll definitely get her, but it'll probably be after Lost Belt 7. I've also seen a lot of people talk about the fact that she might be a free-to-play servant. Like, she might be a 4-star gacha servant, not 4-star, but not gacha servant, but free-to-play servant, right? Or even like the first 5-star free-to-play servant we can get from the free-to-play gacha, Lord knows I just need to get another person like Olga Marie from the free-to-play gacha, but that would actually kind of be a little bit cool, right? If they're like, hey, it's the old director, and instead of having to summon for her, now you can actually just go get her for free. So I don't think she's super likely for New Year's. If she's going to be like summonable, probably like anniversary or something, or even just being a free-to-play servant. But let's move on to the next guy. Next one is, I'm going to kind of bank on the Grand Saber version of Castoria, right? So if you haven't seen or haven't gone through Lost Belt 6, I'm not going to spoil things, but just know you're going to go with Castoria and kind of complete her journey, where she's going to end up being the equivalent of like Grand Saber, right? That's kind of where she's going to end up. And we even had a node in Lost Belt 7 that kind of alluded to this, because you fight her, Romulus, and Super Orion, right? This has been something that I've been really banking on for quite a while, ever since we finished Lost Belt 6, and I'm glad it's bearing fruit. I don't talk about it too much in videos. I talk about it on stream all the time, but not in videos, because I don't want to spoil it for like random people that aren't playing JP. But even if you're like an NA player, I hope this isn't like too spoiler free. I'm not going into details or anything, but I think that if they want to go with the patterns, this would be absolutely insane, right? We know from the leaks that we're going to see probably something like this appear, and she's already kind of made her appearance as quote-unquote Grand Saber. So her being the New Year servant, if Lasengo wants to keep in line with the DW tradition, would give us a Saber, for the New Year's event, and she would be insanely hype. I mean, everybody really likes Castoria, not even just because she's really broken, but she's just kind of like a big goofus in the story, and she's just really fun to be around, giving us her more like serious variation, where she's got like every sword, right? Like she's basically just like composite Arthur right at that point, and she's like become Excalibur, which would be really cracked, really insane. It'd be also really ironic if they made her like a Buster servant or a Quick servant. They'd be like, oh yeah, you can't even use the Castorias together, right? Or I guess she wouldn't be Castoria anymore, right? She would be like Grand Saber Artoria, right? Basically, right? In one of the more recent live streams, they said that they were like they didn't feel like Artoria was a like well thought out, like fleshed out character, so they felt like they needed to break down Artoria and bring her back from the ground up, right? And that's what Castoria was. It was almost like a rewriting of who Artoria was, and so it kind of makes sense that they're like, okay, so we've broken down Artoria and we've kind of rewritten her in like a way that we think her journey is now more suitable to what we're going to want to do. And so then they ended, they're like, bam, she's like Grand Saber, we revealed it in Lost Belt 7, boom, we're going to drop her for New Year's. I think that would be insanely hype. This is a yeah, Kirei, bro. I chose the funny image. I got the Y of Kirei. But this is another one of those guys that I think a lot of people have been really pining for. People really want Kirei to come out. The only thing is that I'm like, Kirei dropping for Lost Belt 7? I don't know about that. It just feels like a weird time. Like, Kirei, I feel like, would drop when we get, like, the Solomon for Lost Belt, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, the finale thing. Because Kirei is kind of like, what, the last, like, envoy person of the alien god at this point. You know, he's kind of like the last person they've got left. Because by the time Lost Belt 7 is done, I'm assuming we're going to clear house. We're going to take out the king, take out whatever threats are in there. We're going to take out David and whatever his servant happens to be. If you haven't seen any of the new animations for some of the new servants that we've seen, I'm not going to spoil it for you or anything. But, you know, we're going to take out everybody in there. And Kirei's going to be the last guy left. So I think it kind of makes sense that he'll drop for, like, the Solomon of Lost Belt 2, whatever it's called, like the alien god thing, or whatever they decide to do. Although, that might be a little bit weird because I think alien god also has ties to, like, Olga Marie and stuff. So who knows what they're going to do with, like, all that stuff. Like, who actually knows what's going to go on with that one? I just don't think New Year's right now, like, I just don't think it's Kirei's time, right? Like, I don't think it's time for him to come out. I think they're going to choose a bit of a more appropriate time for him to come out. So I don't think New Year's are going to be for Kirei. Now, this was actually my theory for the longest time, is I thought we were finally going to get Richard in FGO, because as you guys know, we had that Fate Strange Fake anime adaptation that was going to come out. Like, at first it was like an OVA, and then it was like an animated series, and I was like, oh, it's going to be like a full anime for Strange Fake, this is awesome. And my, like, game theory was that it was going to end, or like we were at least going to get to the point where Richard gets summoned, and then he was going to be summonable for New Year's, because it all lined up, right? Like, new hype from the anime. He's a Saber class servant that keeps the pattern alive if Lysenko really cares about that. But then the thing kind of got delayed, right? The Fate Strange Fake anime is delayed right now, so it's not going to be coming out until after New Year's. And so I don't know, like, if they maybe had this guy planned, if they're going to end up delaying him and, like, swapping him around for, like, say, the Grand Saber Castoria or whatever, right? But, like, this was, like, my biggest theory for the longest time. I think Richard is super sick. I like him a bit more than I like Artoria. This dude is, like, really cool. He's almost like Artoria if he could, like, if she could summon the Round Table, right? Like, he's kind of like that. He's, like, composite Round Table, but it's just Richard and his guys instead of, like, Artoria and her guys, right? He's really, really cool. He gets to fight, like, Gilgamesh and stuff in Strange Fake. He's just an absolute, like, sick dude. And so I was kind of banking on him, but I don't know if they're going to do that anymore, right? But I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that maybe they still will, but I don't know. Maybe it just won't make as much sense. But then again, they could drop him on New Year's still, if that was the plan, because it would still generate hype for, like, the Strange Fake release. So these are just some of my thoughts and some of my speculations. I just thought this would be a really fun video to do, because I'm like, oh, now we know that, like, Olga's now, like, kind of designed. Like, we know that she has at least, like, a model, and we have, like, some skills and stuff to work with. The reality of her coming out is getting closer and closer, and I was like, you know what? Let's just talk about New Year's, because we've been talking about it ever since, like, last New Year's, right? Every New Year's we're like, all right, who do we think is gonna be next? And pretty much all year it's been like Kirei, but then when we got the announcement of Strange Fake, I was like, oh, it's definitely gonna be Richard. But now, who knows, with, like, this last couple of months in the developments of, like, Lost Belt 7 and everything, who knows who it's going to be. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Maybe there's some guy that I haven't thought of, right? Maybe someone's going to be like, well, you didn't think of XYZ character over here, Mr. ZTO, you big dumb dingus. Or someone's going to be like, you didn't think about Arthur Alter from the, I forget which one it is. It's like one of the Fate prototypes. Arthur gets, like, an altered version, and, like, Ku has to beat him up, or I don't remember which one it is. There's two prototypes. Someone in the comments that's, like, the Fate lore guy will be like, well, actually that was the end of the first one, and then Ku had to put him down, or something like that, right? Someone will let me know. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late, guys.